What is up, guys? Wraec is here with a new video, and today is a bit of a special day. Today is the 10th day. We have Fresto in the game, and I wanted to take a little look back because I always make an initial review of the hero, tell you guys whether or not I think you should summon him. But of course, after like a week or 10 days in this case of using a hero, you get a bit more of a clear picture. So I want to tell you guys my opinion after really 10 days of testing this guy. And well, starting off, he has surprised me in quite a positive way. He is quite the cool hero. He's even better than I thought. And when we first got him, we said, okay, he is rather tanky, but if that is going to be enough, oh, that is difficult. We'll have to see about it. And throughout this last week, he kind of established himself in a lot of teams. Not necessarily too much in PvP, didn't really see that. That's still a lot of iron stuff. Supreme Arena, some people placed him in there, but really haven't seen him too much being used there. But in PvE, there are so many clears now with him. It's actually quite insane. So if we check this out, we can go into AFK progress, we go into Just Battle, and we can check out the records. And just the lowest power records, and you can see he's in there. Next one, he's actually not in this one, not in this one either, but the lowest power one actually has him, and this is like stable actually for a lot of those clears, and the way he's used in there, and kind of prepared the team, is often something like this. You see him being used there in the front as our main tank, a Smokey in there, a Heathen and the Coco, and the goal of this team is obviously to stall. Against this enemy team, this will probably end up quite horribly, I reckon. A bit afraid. Because there are those mean sand guys in there that yeah, tend to shred you. By the way, this artifact is a very cool animation. And the goal of a team like this, and you should usually manually do that, but we are overpowered actually at this point, is to stall the enemy enough so that your Smokey gets to the third ult. And he has established himself in those teams. And those teams are the ones that people use to push a ton of AFK stages, to push really far into the end game. And for those stages, he was really key. He was really key. He was better than all the other tanks, and that's why he saw use. And you see how many stages are really cleared with low power teams like this. And the reason people are with low power at this point is they clear it with very, very low hero resonance, 441 or something like this. And this, of course, is low power. And they push very, very far with that. Because Smokey as a damage dealer enables you to clear a lot. Fresto as a tank makes it possible to survive long enough to actually do that. And the insane thing is, I pushed to 1054, which is decent. It's not, I didn't push for a few days now, but it's actually enough for the last Duros trial to unlock. Is actually still enough for the next Duros trial, which isn't even there to be unlocked. But if you check out the leaderboards, you can see how much further people actually pushed. And we have, I placed one endgame here, 1381. Imagine that. 1381 is 330 stages more than I have. And it's... Oh, I'm 31, I was a bit lazy, I'll be honest with you. And this is partly possible because of Fresto. And that is absolutely insane. And so in that regard, he has really delivered. Is he underhyped? A little bit. I think people weren't really hyped because he wasn't too much as like an overpowered hero. But he's certainly a good hero, and people appreciated him, which is, I mean, in terms of marketing and advertisement, probably not the best, because like appreciation doesn't generate hype, but he's good. He's very, very good, and he's better than people anticipated. And one perspective of this, and one thing that actually makes him good as well, is you can buy his charms at the Mythic Charm vendor, which is rather nice. You can get the full Mythic Charm set there, which is pretty cool and helps you with the start of this hero. But another thing that I really appreciate is also that he's really good at Mythic Plus already. You don't even necessarily need him at Supreme Plus. If you want to push to these stages that Endgame is, yeah, you will probably want Supreme Plus because it gives you this extra shield, which is rather nice. But if you are just a free-to-play or a player like I am that just doesn't have a lot of Stellar Crystals right now, you are fine using him at Mythic Plus. He's very, very nice there. Get some taunt there. You get some extra damage. You have a decent amount of stats at Mythic Plus. Even before Mythic Plus, I mean, you don't really need that taunt necessarily. So even before Mythic Plus, he's a pretty good hero. I actually wonder how far you could go with just a single copy of him. If somebody tried that, please let me know down in the comments below. I really wonder about that, because it should be pretty interesting. I guess you want the hero focus, so maybe Legendary Plus is really good on him, I guess. So maybe at that point he's also kind of alright, but he's super tanky at Mythic Plus, and I put him in a lot of teams, and then I notice, hey, he's just not dying. And the biggest reason for that, in my opinion, is not really, well, his stat line. It is that if you have the same position, you actually get 30% damage reduction. If I could find it, that would be really appreciated. There it is. It's 30% damage reduction, which is quite a lot and helps him survive for quite some time. And then you have all of those heal, and that actually helps him as well, makes him kind of a better hero than most people anticipated. In the first testing, we saw how he can easily heal back to full HP when he stands between a bunch of enemies. So that was still quite insane. We can maybe recreate that a little bit. Probably should take out this guy though, because in that sense we might just be dying there. But yeah, at the beginning we already noticed how tanky he is, how insanely hard it is for the enemies to kill him, and once he's surrounded by enemies, how he's quickly regenerating back to full HP, and how much heal he has in the end. His damage, in my opinion, still is rather bad. It's really nothing to be happy about. He's really no damage dealer at all, in my opinion. But sometimes this bit of true damage he does is just enough to finish off the last enemy. So it's kind of more of a functional damage than it is like an insane burst. It looks like more damage when he does his ult. His animation doesn't necessarily reflect the amount of damage that he deals. It's such an annoying stage, by the way. It is more like, you see this is... Can you do an ult, please, to just demonstrate that? Yeah, okay. You see this huge circle on the bottom that we just didn't see because Lumont is pushing our Fresto around. And at that point you think, oh, it's just going to be a huge nuke, and turns out no, it isn't. So we didn't have enough damage there, but still you can see how much damage he tanked really at the end. And still from the heroes that we had, the most damage, which isn't too surprising, but not too insane, but still. The one thing that he is a little bit bad at, and that we still have to keep an eye on, is Durar's Trial. If you place him in Durar's Trial and he is like a hero that gets buffed there, I don't know which stage he was actually buffed there. He's, for example, for the rogue charms he's buffed. The one thing you will notice is that his illusion just dies off immediately. And the reason for that is you get a huge stat buff on those buffed heroes here, and the illusion doesn't seem to get it. So the illusion is just like basically one shot in here, which is a little bit unfortunate, and hopefully something they will fix, because I mean, like, it's half of his power basically is his illusion. So a bit weird that it's just dying off. But yeah, interesting discussion there was about the order of heroes that you should summon. And the initial order that was presented by most people before he was released was like, you go for Rainier, upgrade him to Mythic Plus, maybe Supreme Plus if you're a whale. Then you go for Scalita, upgrade her, in my opinion, to Supreme Plus, because Fizz Def and Magic Def, very nice actually at Supreme Plus. But when you can save a lot of Stellar crystals if you don't do that and just go for Mythic, which will work in a way, but yeah, Supreme Plus ability is rather nice on her. And after that you go for Diurnal, and then Burial is kind of optional. And then the discussion, of course, was where you place him in that order. And the first idea that I had was like, okay, he's probably 4th behind Diurnal. And even throughout the review, after a bit of testing, I wasn't sure about that anymore. And I said like, okay, he's rather tanky. Diurnal is mostly used in PvP. We just saw some Durar's Trial stages where he's like buffed, where he is used. But the rest is not necessarily too much use outside of PvP. So I took a bit of the lazy step to say, okay, he's kind of on one level. So if you want to have Diurnal and have kind of more of the fancy hero, and have a hero that, in my opinion, is a bit more fun than Fresto, then you go for Diurnal and be happy with that, and that's cool. And Fresto, I said like, okay, maybe Fresto, maybe you can just use like Brutus or something as a tank for campaign, we'll be fine with that. In the newly established clears, I have to say I see Fresto in front of Diana as maybe third. There is some discussion around building him as second even. Because if you go for the strategy of those smoky teams and you use that to clear, you don't necessarily need Scalita. And Scalita is also optional for most bosses, so there is an argument to be made to build Fresto second, and given that you're kind of fine building him to Legendary Plus, I think the argument is kind of good. It's kind of good. I love Scalita. I love Scalita for PvP, and I think she is, again, like Dianel, more fun than Fresto. But in terms of use, going for Legendary Plus, maybe Mythic Plus, Fresto after Rainier can be very, 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 very good. Especially if you just go for Legendary Plus, because those are not a lot of copies that you need. Those are really not a lot of copies. Because what you really only need, you only need like 4 copies of him. Yeah. And that is not a ton. So it's pretty achievable in that sense. Maybe not on a free-to-play approach, because in general as free-to-play you struggle a bit with Stellar Crystals. Well, maybe the new event Astral Fair helps a little bit with that. Where you can actually earn some of the crystals. If you haven't seen that already, it's Astral Fair, new event, and there is a shop to that, and in there are actually 5 stellar crystals, so not too bad. But then again, I got a ton of those copies at 40 crystals, which is still fairly far off if you only get 5. So that is the thing. But I kind of like this approach of saying, okay, you go Rainier and plus you go Fresto, Legendary plus, and then maybe you go for Scalita, and kicking Dianel and Burial is kind of more optional fun heroes to the side. I think I kind of like the idea of that. And then maybe after Scalita you can debate on whether you go Dianel, or if you just then say, okay, I max Fresto and I go Fresto Supreme Plus and I unlock those last abilities. I think that is a very interesting approach to take, and maybe something that is recommendable in a way. So yeah, thinking about that, maybe you can tell me your opinion about that in the comments. I'm personally surprised by Fresto, positively surprised. I would have loved to have him have a bit more hype for him, but I think he's just not OP enough to harbor enough hype or to generate hype. He's just very good, but it's not like the hero where everybody would have screamed, yeah, you need to have it. He's kind of too close in terms of power to other replacement heroes. But still, probably the best tank in the game. If it's not about dealing damage, then it's Thoron. But yeah, that being said, wish you a great day. We'll see us in the next one.